Welcome TLMI. This is Dan Munzer. I still have the pleasure of being president of TLMI for another month or so. We're thrilled to have you join us on the latest issue of our webinar printTHINK series, and just wanted to just give a shout out here real quick. The webinar series is something that we've been talking about doing for quite some time. And with the pandemic and what it has done to our ability to meet and greet and spend time with each other, we thought we'd kick it off during COVID and the lack of travel. And we also wanted to launch the series with our beloved sponsor partners. Ultimately, this will involve all of our members who are interested in joining. But right now, we want to give a special shout out to our supplier partners. And so thank you to both Tesa Tape and 3M, who are today's presenters. Also, do want to note, you probably have seen this, but all of your microphones are muted, and you do have the ability to ask questions by typing in the box in the lower right-hand corner. Kyle Baldwin is going to be the moderator of the questions. He'll make sure that they go to the person who's most appropriate to answer that. And then finally, I'm thrilled that Mr. Doug Bartlett, industry veteran Doug Bartlett, who has 30+ years of experience on both the converter and the supplier side, and is one of the bright technical minds in our industry, has agreed to be the moderator of this first round of printTHINK webinar series. And this is the second one, and we have, if I'm not, Doug can talk more about it, but we have 10 or 12 in the pipeline, so they're going to be going for certainly the rest of this quarter and into the fourth quarter, I'm sure. So with that, Doug, thank you again. Oh, I should also note that Doug has recently, last week it was announced, has joined All Printing Resources, APR, and so that's where he's hanging his hat. And APR, great TLMI member also. Doug, I'll hand it over to you to take it from here, but thank you very much for your participation, and thank you very much for everybody who is attending. And I should also note, as I ramble on, that we are recording these webinars, and they will be shared with all of membership. And quite honestly, more people will probably see the webinar via the recording than live. So I would encourage you, and it takes a few days to clean up, but in the coming days, we will be sharing the recording. It will be stored on Engage, so you can share it with your coworkers if there are things that you want to share. So with that, Doug, I hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Appreciate that, and thanks everyone for joining. This is the second of the optimization theme. We've got a few themes that we're going to be working on here as we go along, but we've got 3 more sessions after this one relating specifically to optimization. So as I said in the first round, when we heard from A and B a couple of weeks ago, we just want to go into different perspectives of the optimization process and what to look for in certain areas or certain key areas, not all of them, but some of them. So, today we've been blessed with the presence of Tesa and 3M to help us with the mounting tape portion of this, which is always very important. And I guess what I'll do, there's 2 sessions here, so we'll start with John Backus from 3M, and then we'll go over to Joel and Amber after that. So with that said, take it away, John.
Very good. Let me know when my screen is coming through.
Okay, looks good. I see it.
Perfect. So good afternoon, everybody. As Doug mentioned, my name is John Backus. I'm the marketing manager for the United States and Canada at 3M, and very excited to be with TLMI today, this afternoon, to talk through some optimization topics in terms of mounting tape and really the whole process and how 3M thinks about that. So really to start, defining optimization in terms of what we look at, and it's really analyzing the printing process when we're talking printing to determine the preferred operating parameters. And that's really your preferred operating parameters as a printer, and not necessarily anything else, because everybody's situation is a little bit different, right? So that's what 3M strives to do, is to help find those preferred operating parameters for you, for each printer that's out there. And how do we do that? So it's a model that we came up with. It's a 3M print quality advantage around 3 pillars really, and it's optimal, consistent, and productive. And each of these fit in terms of materials that you're using, the process that you're going about that throughout your entire process. So we'll talk through these as we go through the rest of the slides here. But these are kind of the 3 pillars that 3M bases on. And really, it's not just one part of the process, right? It's really the entire process. So we talk not only mounting, which definitely is where tape comes in, but also how does that work when you're on press, and then going full cycle for the demounting side. So it's not just a one, process step type of approach. It's really taking into consideration that entire process as we go through and optimize each of the steps. So starting with optimal, and you'll see a consistent slide format going forward, but really, each of these pillars has 3 components. So it's got the materials, the machine, and the method. So in the materials piece, all of your pre-press materials, you have your plates, you have your mounting tape for sure, and that's really where that optimal part comes in. From the 3M side, you can see in there on the picture, it's a little bit tough to see, but you want to make sure everything is set right. So you want to make sure all your tape is mounted correctly, your plates are mounted correctly. In the picture there's actually a seam in the tape that came in, and that was printing as they're going through the optimal run. So all of that is kind of determined upon setup there. And also with the materials piece, you also want to make sure that those lay down correctly so that there's no bubbling or no imperfections in your print quality output. And then machine standpoint, we look at running at posted press speeds, making sure that analoxes are set correctly, and your impression settings. Really, we want minimal impression settings, so you're reducing the wear on all of the pieces of the processes in the machines as you're going through that. And then methods, we spend a lot of time in conversations with end users, with printers on methods, and what are we really measuring? And that's really, your color targets or your print quality output targets. So how can we take those and put those into standard operating procedures so that you can really set up that optimal system that then you can get quality results time after time. That really goes into the consistent piece. So again, on the material side, 3M's got a comply adhesive system when you're talking tape for consistency, and that really allows for a true air bleed underneath both the tape and the plate, so that you can mount without any air bubbles in there. And also the adhesive packages allow for that tight lock, if you will, of the plate to the tape as it's going through the press, and that'll kind of come through at the end as we talk through the whole process. And then machine, again, consistency is all about making sure it's almost like a set it and forget it type mindset on your machine settings. So you really want to optimize that piece and how all of those materials, the tape and the plates and everything flow into that setting that you have there, so that job after job, as those jobs come back up, they can be set up and run with the same print quality output, because that's the target really as we go through this and optimize with end users. And then methods, really, and from a consistency standpoint, we talk a lot about surface preparation with a lot of the end users that we interact with and get a chance to interact with. And that's really, making sure that there is good bond between your sleeve and your tape and your plate. And a lot of that comes into how we recommend those surface preparation procedures, and really, using isopropyl alcohol to make sure that that bond is as strong as it can be, and that there's no contaminants in there in the system that you get, as well as any other thing that could come into play while you're on press, because that's where we definitely don't want anything to come up where you're going to get any plate lift or any defects in your print because of that. And then productive. So as we go into kind of the materials, machine, and method standpoint, from a productive standpoint, 3M's got a wide variety of foam densities. So whether you're printing solids, you're process printing, or there's some sort of combo in between there, 3M has a foam density that can be supplied to optimize that portion of the run, whether it's different tape selections, even on the same job or the same run, based on what you're trying to print with that particular plate. And the machine, as we said a couple times before, that setting is very important. We want to minimize that impression setting to really give that optimal print result, that optimal color output, and get that to color as fast as we can into register. And from a method standpoint, 3M has a variety of adhesive systems, and as the line, I think, between what was consistently, a narrow web versus a wide web print shop is kind of coming together. There's a lot of different adhesive packages out there, and parts of those are making it easier to remove plates and reduce that plate damage. So that's where the 3M L series product comes into play in that reducing that plate damage and allowing you to save both time and money, reducing time that it takes to demount plates and wear and tear both on the plates and on the operator. So again, going back to it's about a total process focus, and where we come into a printer, it's really helping understand, and I don't want to say audit, but help walk through that process and where on each step can that be optimized. And from the mounting standpoint, making sure that you have the right tape and plate, and if there's new plates, making sure that that's still the right combination for you to achieve that optimal print quality result. And at each of these steps, that's the end goal, and the target is to get to that end print quality and then that end result. So really on the mounting side, it's mounting quickly and easily, making sure that there are no air bubbles as you're putting tape onto the sleeves and putting plates onto the tape, and then solidifying that with all of the best practices and the standard operating procedures, so that your crew, we know that there's a lot of turnover out there in the industry, so that your crews, regardless of if they're experienced or inexperienced, can come in and set up that job the way that you need it to be set up and to be run, so that you get that output quality that you're looking for, and ultimately that your end customer is looking for. The same with on press. Obviously, when the presses are down, that's bad for everybody. That's money that's going out the door, right? That we don't want to have happen. So reducing that downtime, attaining your color more quickly, and getting that more consistent print quality output is really what we're focused on there. And that goes back to your input materials, making sure that those are optimized for the system that you're running, and that you're not getting any press downtime as it relates to either plate ups or tape ups or air bubbles that may be in the system. And then demounting, that's really around that easier tape removal, trying to save both time and money in terms of making it easy to remove plates, making it safe to remove plates, so that there's no rips, tears, or damage on the removal portion. And that also saves time, as you're able to take those off and remount plates as fast as you need to in order to get back to printing, get to the point where we can keep up as an industry. We can keep up with kind of the demands of the end users that are out there, in terms of shorter turnaround times, shorter runs, and those types, a lot more changeover. So really trying to optimize that whole process, not just taking it from a one step or another, but really looking at the whole process and how that fits together. And I think with that, I will pass it back and wait to the end for any questions.
Yeah, thanks, John. Just want to remind everybody that they can enter their questions into the question box, and we'll answer those all at the end. But please use that to get your questions in. So again, thank you, John. What we're going to do now is we'll hand it over to Joelle and Amber. We had a little technical issue with Amber's camera, so I'm not sure we'll be able to see her, but I'm sure we'll be able to hear her. So with that, go ahead, you guys from tesa. Thanks.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to make sure before we start, are you able to see my screen?
You can see it. I can see it, yeah.
Perfect. So my name is Amber Huffman. I am the product marketing manager for tesa's North American region, covering the US, Canada, and Mexico. And I'm excited to be joining my first webinar with TLMI this afternoon.
All right, and my name is Joel Rivera. I am the sales manager for US and Canada. Really excited to do this. Dan, thank you for putting this together, and the rest of the crew. And, we'll probably echo some of what John just said. I think, even though we're competitors, we look for a lot of the same things in the press room to optimize. So without further ado, we'll get started. And Amber and I will go back and forth a little bit on the two products that we'll be highlighting in terms of optimizing the process there in pre-production, production, and post-production. John, you broke it down into 3 segments, essentially the same thing here. And we'll start with reviewing the two materials that we want to highlight, and then I'll get into pre-production. So if you're familiar at all with tesa, we have 2 different adhesive packages, and I won't go into the details for that. I'll probably highlight mostly our flex range, and as John had mentioned with 3M, we have hardness levels as well. So focus in on the flex series and what benefits we have in optimizing your process there. And then if you want to go ahead and click one more time. Amber.
Focusing on twin lock and the optimization that you can see in production if you go with a self-adhesive reusable solution. And that's exactly what twin lock is. It's a self-adhesive reusable compressible sleeve or cylinder using a base from your preferred supplier. So the foam is coated with a unique polymer that has permanently tacky properties and allows for reuse when following proper SOPs. There's also 3 hardness levels, so there's a soft, a medium, and a hard.
Okay, so we're all familiar with the traditional plate mounting process and what materials are entailed to accomplish that. So you have traditionally your sleeve or cylinder, followed with the plate mounting tape, and then your plate, of course. So I'll highlight this process and what key factors we look at to optimize the process, and then you can click to the next one.
And then as we talk through optimization and have that discussion today, twin lock will be unique considering that there is no plate mounting tape involved due to twin lock self-adhesive properties. So due to that self-adhesive property and the reusability of the elimination of plate mounting tape from your process not only allows you to optimize your overall printing production, but there's also a significant opportunity for sustainability improvements and advancements as well.
Okay, so going into plate mounting, some of the things that we want to look at when you grab that sleeve or you grab that cylinder is that you have a material that provides that reliable, secure bonding. And I had mentioned flex before, and there's a reason why I want to highlight that specific product and adhesive package in terms of optimizing that process when you're going through mounting your tape and your plate, is that essentially what we have on there is a pressure sensitive adhesive. So as soon as you apply that pressure, you have that reliable, secure bond we've seen run after run without any tape lift or plate lift for that matter. And then also, you know, press operators and in the pre-press room, you want to have easy and fast plate mounting. You know, try to standardize the conditions in there. We understand that press conditions and pre-press areas vary by plant, but with that, the pressure adhesive is very resilient in most conditions. So these are the things we want to look at and highlight, and we try to go after when going into pre-production.
Right, and as we look at the pre-production process or the mounting process specifically, time is valuable. So fast and efficient plate mounting is essential for production optimization. Proper plate mounting is critical because any plate lift or improper plate positioning can cause timely and expensive issues later on in your process. There's also a cost optimization component when using a reusable self-adhesive plate mounting solution, since you are eliminating the need for plate mounting tape. So depending on the amount of tape you consume during a year, that level of optimization can vary. But also prior to production, you'll want to make sure that prior to your press run, you select a self-adhesive with the appropriate foam density for your print job. So in this case, we have 3 hardness levels, soft, medium, or hard, that follows the same foam density logic and evaluation that you would use when looking for a plate mounting tape. So for example, print jobs with fine screens would be best suited for a soft foam, and print jobs that require a high density laydown of ink would be best suited for a hard foam.
Amber, you have control of the presentation, right?
I do, yes.
Okay, go back one more. I just want to highlight here, you know, maybe there's some who are attending and have not seen TwinLock. Maybe it's a new idea and product that you've never really understood. But you know, one thing I want to highlight here is that, of course, depending on press room to press room, TwinLock may not be for everybody. You know, we won't get into all those details in this presentation, but these are just two different approaches, as I highlighted in the beginning, that we offer, and you know, they're dependent on your conditions and really what you're looking for in terms of optimization. And if you're really looking for ROI, then maybe TwinLock is, you know, a route for you. But again, just we're kind of going back and forth here from Flex to TwinLock just to highlight the 2 differentiating benefits that each have to offer. All right, so in terms of what you're looking for, when you're looking to optimize the pre-production stage, you know, immediately you want to have removal of any trapped air bubbles. John, I know you highlighted that, or really not encountering air bubbles at all. I mean, that would be nice. So that's something that we've tended to experience very often. And one of the key factors that we look at achieving is having that removal of trapped air bubbles or not having them at all. And if you do, then, you know, a product like Flex, for instance, is able to give you good repositioning. So you're looking at repositioning of the tape. So if there's any air bubbles, it's easy to pull that off the sleeve or the cylinder. You can get those air bubbles out of there. And also with the plate positioning, prior to applying any pressure to the plate, you can reposition the plate as needed, pull it up, get any air bubbles out if there are any, and move on with it. I think after a while of being accustomed to the SOP, it really speeds up the process and allows you to cut down on the downtime that you have with, you know, fighting that tape or plate when you're mounting it.
Right, and when looking to optimize your flexo printing process and focusing on a self-adhesive solution specifically like TwinLock as opposed to plate mounting tape, you'll want to ensure that you are starting your mounting process by properly cleaning your sleeve or cylinder. When using a product like TwinLock, there's a special activator that we use during this step, and the solution essentially activates the tackiness of the sleeve, allowing for easy plate mounting and plate repositioning prior to production. So by properly positioning your plate, you will avoid running into various problems while on press. And this balance of tackiness from using the activating solution allows for optimal plate laydown and repositioning with no plate edge lifting or bubbles, which can cause various different defects when you move into the next stage, which is the production printing stage.
Okay, so moving into that key stage, right, where you want to see pretty much the benefits of everything that you put into it in pre-press. So we look for things that attribute to excellent edge lifting resistance. And when we talk about edge lifting, you know, the tape and also the plate. I know a lot focus on the plate, but we look at the tape as well. You don't want that tape lifting off of your cylinder or your sleeve. With that, as you're printing, you know, short or long runs, you want something that's ink and solvent resistant, something that material that won't allow for any ink or solvent to go under the tape or under the plate, which most times that's what causes your lifting. And once you achieve all that, then you know you have a reliable and strong bond on pretty much any cylinder or sleeve that you throw at it. So whether, you know, variable speeds that you're running the press at, you want to be able to achieve all this, and these are the key factors that we go after.
And there are several things you'll want to look at optimizing during this key production stage to improve print quality, overall efficiencies, and managing total production costs. You'll want to ensure that your plate mounting solution provides you with high print speeds, lasting print quality, excellent registration, because print quality is paramount. Having that excellent registration with no print defects and no on-press adjustments after make ready is critical. Even after long press times, you will still expect accurate and reliable print results. So the overall makeup and composition of your base and plate mounting tape, or in this case, a self-adhesive plate mounting solution, is critical for consistent print quality. And with TwinLock specifically, we're able to measure the composition of that base by using a laser to measure all of the TwinLock sleeves that we produce. So the impact of optimizing your Flexo plate mounting process can be seen visually on some of the following slides that we have.
Yeah, so what we do here, specific really to really changing only one variable as we ran these jobs, and it was the plate mounting tape. So what I'm demonstrating here is with tape, and looking for consistent ink laydown, you know, especially on the process side. You can see here on the two that are to the left, this is prior to changing out to with this, it was our Flex series, in fact. And you can see by leaving all variables the same and just changing out the plate mounting tape, this is what we experience. So this is a test that we run pretty often with our customers, and we try to capture the before and after results. And on the next slide, I think we zoomed in a little bit more on that number 5 there that was printed, just to show the ink density and how smooth it laid down. We zoomed in quite a bit on this, but that's okay. We wanted to show just the difference here. So this is what you're looking for at the end of the day when you have consistent registration, and you don't have to mess with that, and you can run your jobs as long as you need to, and repeat after repeat, you get the same ink laydown and density. Then you know you've optimized your process, and you don't have to check it as deeply here as we did for this exercise. But that's, at the end of the day, these are the results that you're looking to achieve, because at the end of the day, you've optimized your entire process here through the production stage. So I mentioned registration. In terms of things you want to look for here, as you finally optimize your production stage, you haven't encountered any edge lift, you pull that sleeve or cylinder off of the press, everything's still intact, you have high quality print as we demonstrated in the prior slides. So with that being said, you've fully met your intent here, and you've optimized that process. You haven't had to go back to rerun your jobs at all.
And similar to what we've seen and discussed on some of the previous slides, during production, the results of having an optimized plate mounting process and solution are self-evident. You'll be able to see clear, clean registration with no print defects. Your print area will have a high quality finish with solid ink density, sharp, fine lines, and overall uniform smoothness. And when you optimize your plate mounting process, less bounce and chatter will be present during your production run, which also has a huge impact on the overall quality of your final finished product.
Okay, so going into post-production, what we're looking for in terms of performance, definitely want some fast and easy plate demounting. So you don't want to fight with that plate as you're pulling it off the tape and really removing the tape from the sleeve or cylinder. We've seen a lot of splitting, we've experienced a lot of splitting, and so in order to optimize that, we highlight Flex here as a good series of ours that can offer this for you. And with that, I put an asterisk here next to reusable. That all depends on climate, depends on the SOP that you follow in the press room. But I did want to highlight that there have been several occasions with a lot of customers and prospects today that we've seen reusable under very specific conditions, but still really reusable, and it's resilient. It's a resilient series for us, and this is something that we didn't intend going into the production of Flex, but we've definitely encountered it quite a bit, and it's definitely a benefit for anyone who uses it today.
And similar to what we discussed earlier, time is incredibly valuable. So when changing over to new print jobs, reusability and easy plate demounting are critical to ensure that there's no major time lapses taking place in between production runs. So the post-production optimization that you achieve from a reusable plate mounting solution will ultimately depend on the frequency of your job changeovers. And you're not only optimizing your production process, you're also optimizing your total impact on the environment. With no plate mounting tape potentially being sent to the landfill after use, this can have a large impact on your company's overall sustainability strategy and short-term and long-term goals. And you also have the opportunity to optimize your ROI during production by using a reusable plate mounting solution as opposed to using plate mounting tape, which can be limited to its number of uses. And ultimately, that ROI can vary depending on numerous different factors, but always something that we can talk through and happy to go through in more depth.
Okay, so I think here we wrap it all up. Post-production and having that sleeve or cylinder in your hand, and you're pulling the tape and the plate off. You want to be able to experience a minimal downtime when getting ready for that next job and using that same cylinder or sleeve for your next job. You see that your plates are protected, easy to clean. You haven't had any plate or edge lift. We put here same look as pre-production. Obviously, you're going to have ink and solvent on the plate. What that entails is that third bullet there. Just no lifting, no splitting, no cracks in the plates, and that at the end of the day is our ending factor there that would tell you, okay, from pre-production to post-production, as long as we achieve these key bullet points here, then in the end, I would say that you've been able to optimize your process, gaining more production time, and cutting down that downtime and protecting your materials moving forward.
And after production, when looking to optimize your overall process, you'll want to ensure that you have minimal production downtime. So using a reusable solution can provide your overall production process with a tremendous amount of time savings. You'll also make sure that your plates are protected from any possible rips and tears during demounting. So when using a self-adhesive reusable product that has a unique polymer coating, you'll have that perfect balance of tackiness, so it allows you to reposition the plate as needed in your early mounting stages, but it also allows you to demount your plates in your final demounting stage without any risk of ripping or damaging those plates. And to Joelle's point, you'll want to make sure that there are no adhesive residues left on your cylinder or sleeve. You'll want it to have the same look similar to pre-production. So when using a self-adhesive option that doesn't require any kind of plate mounting tape, this can be achievable with every sleeve that you use. So thank you, everyone. I think with that, I will turn it over to Doug for Q&A.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys for cramming a lot of information in a short time frame. I know that's kind of tough. And I really wanted to kind of make these things short and to the point, not too deep, but deep enough. And if you have questions, obviously you can reach out to these guys to get more detail as you need it. So I got a few questions here, and I've grouped them so that we'll just go one supplier at a time here. So I got some for 3M, John. So with the lower removal force, is there a risk for increased plate removal? Are you muted there, John? Not hearing you. Is
that better?
There you go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, one that we definitely get often, and a good question. So thanks for asking. I think, you know, the way that the adhesives are designed, that 3M designed them, actually allow for that less removal force or easier removal, but actually give more of a bond. And as Joel mentioned, you know, they're pressure sensitive adhesives, so both are very similar in that sense. But you get that firm bond while the plate is on the tape. But the design behind the adhesive is such that the plate removes easily and allows for, you know, less plate damage and tape damage as you're peeling plates off.
Okay. I'm looking at let's see, if I'm looking at a new plate material, what mounting tape should I start with?
Again, very good question. You know, I think as we look at any new technology, whether that be plates or screening or any kind of technology that are out there, even sleeves, I think that's always a great time to optimize, again, to re-optimize the whole process and maybe even re-fingerprint. And that's where, you know, from a 3M standpoint, the tape density selection comes in. So we have eight different densities that are out there to really optimize every color on every sleeve that you have and every print plate that you have. So as you're talking about new plates, you do want to think about what that interaction is going to be with the tape, and likely start with the same density that you're currently using today, but know that there may be a move either to a firmer density or a softer density as needed to optimize your color.
If you're moving to a similar plate material, similar durometer, then you might start with a similar tape. But if you're changing durometers,
Exactly.
and drastically, yeah, okay. Do you recommend using one mounting tape for the entire job?
So it's an interesting question. Not necessarily. I would say if you have some colors that are more process versus solid, you know, on the solid side, you probably want a firmer tape. On the process side, you want a little bit of a softer tape. If there's combo there, there's, you know, room in the middle. So that's what we would suggest starting with, looking at what your graphic is, and then choosing the plate or tape from there. And that may mean that it's different on your red versus your cyan, depending on what you're printing.
Okay, and then one last one for you. I have a new press, and I'm going to more of a mid-web width. Is there anything I should consider in terms of tape selection, going from a narrower to a mid-web?
Yeah, again, you know, great question, and one that we've honestly seen quite a bit of out there in the market recently. And I think, you know, as we move from the traditional narrow web label printing, traditionally that was the 3M H series adhesive, which is our high adhesion because of the small repeat. That high adhesion was valuable there. As we move to the mid and wider web format, there are E series, our L series, and then our newest Pro series products that are out there. And those really optimize the adhesive packages for some of those mid to wider web processes and presses, and really give you those reduced adhesive force qualities that are out there. So as you're looking to that mid to wider web, just know that there's a wider portfolio out there to choose from.
Okay. I guess this one kind of up for either of you here with flat top dots. Is it possible to use only one type or type compressibility of tape or line for line combo in process work? So I guess if it's flat top dots, and you can just use one tape for all of those types of print challenges, line, combo, or process, or do you need separate tapes?
I would say you could try and see what the print output comes out at. I would probably suggest starting with a mid-range in terms of foam density and go from there if you're covering the gamut of process all the way to solid color.
Okay. When running an optimization process, what items should I look at to evaluate the tape? Question mark. So good solid, good printed dot shape. What are we looking for in the print itself to say that this is optimized, and how is that looked at through a loop, through densitometer, spectrophotometer? What else? I mean, what are you really looking for, visually from the print?
So are these still to
Yeah,
John?
no, any of you can answer that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and we highlighted that a little bit in our presentation, but definitely a solid ink density laydown is what you're looking for. When we look at the ink density for example, the job that we highlighted in our presentation, you're just looking for that consistent laydown in your process and your solids, right? So minimal dot gain is definitely one that you're looking for. And going back to the question in terms of if you got a new plate or a new press, as John mentioned, I think we would probably recommend the same thing. Start out with a medium foam density and then go from there. You gotta, it's a combo print, but maybe you gotta go more towards the softer side or the hard side, depending on what you're printing.
Okay. Here's one more for either of you here. If I change tapes, how can this affect my dot gain and matching legacy work on the old tape to work? Let's see, to the work printed with the new tape. So obviously you've got an old tape, you're going to switch to a new tape. You've got some differences. How do you go about managing that without spending a lot of press time reprofiling and everything? Is that possible? Either one.
Joel, go ahead if you want to start.
Do you want to take a whack at it? Go ahead. That's fine.
I said, I guess there's no easy way to do it from what we've seen. And as Joel mentioned before, I would likely start with something in the mid-range as you're switching tape, and then optimize either to the firmer side or to the softer side from there. In terms of how to do it to reduce the amount of potential, scrap print or fingerprint ideas, I don't necessarily have the golden answer there, I suppose. But just choosing something in the middle, I think, typically gets you pretty close.
Yeah, and if you're going from one series to another, whether it's within the same brand or maybe you got a cross-reference, for instance, we have Tesa and 3M here. I think it's pretty simple these days to cross-reference that foam density, and I would say start there. Whether it is in the same brand or not. For us, for instance, speaking for Tesa tape, it's you've got Flex, you've got our Classic series, and if you're going down that road and you're switching from one to the other, typically what we'll recommend most of the time is just to cross-reference the foam density and then go from there.
Yeah, so I guess the bottom line there is that, if you go from a like tape to another like tape, there's a chance that you're not going to affect the dot gain too much, but most likely you're going to, and you really want to look at re-optimizing or at least re-fingerprinting and making sure that everything's aligned. Like you said, there's no easy way around it. Sometimes you get lucky, but really there's no easy way around it. So, okay, we've got a couple more here. These are for Tesa. And let's see, how long does twin lock usually last? What is the typical durability?
So the longevity of a twin lock sleeve ultimately depends on following proper SOPs. So the lifespan could be a couple of years all the way up to, I think we've seen twin lock sleeves in the market that are 10 years or older. So you also have the option to periodically recoat a twin lock sleeve as long as there's no damage to the base. And what a recoat is it's simply removing the old twin lock layer and replacing it with a new twin lock layer. So they're pretty durable, and the longevity, again, as long as you follow proper SOPs, can be several years.
Okay. And how reliable is flex plate mounting tape in varying climate conditions?
Yeah, so I'll answer that, and then I think the best way to answer that is just what we've seen in the field. So we've seen great success in humid plants down in Alabama that I myself have been in, and all the way up to Toronto, where we have some customers today using Flex in the middle of winter. So whether your press room is climatized or not, and depending on your external climate as well, we've seen great success in various climates, various shipping seasons. So really no issues in terms of your climate, I would say.
Okay. All right, and then the last question here is how does a twin lock sleeve keep its adhesive properties?
So the twin lock polymer layer itself is unique in the fact that it's got permanently tacky properties, and it maintains those adhesive properties through the use of a custom cleaning solution that we refer to as activator, and we kind of touched on that in the pre-optimization slides that we talked through. So the activator is used to clean the sleeves before production, and it essentially activates the polymer's adhesive properties and provides that right balance of tackiness when you mount a plate and go to press.
Okay, well, that's all I have for questions. Thank you guys for answering those. If I guess, wanted to highlight the fact that in 2 weeks we're going to have another one of these, and it'll be focused on inks. We've got one supplier member that's going to present for this, one of our sponsors. I've seen the preview of it, and it's a pretty interesting, pretty in-depth presentation around inks and color and the impact of that in the optimization process. So I'm kind of looking forward to that one myself. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Otherwise, I think that's it.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks a lot, Doug.